find out for yourself. Take sadhana to the end and find out directly. What I could offer you is not relevant as an opinion. You have to ask what death is in the process. You have to ask what is sadhana in the process of answering this question. You have to ask many questions. So you have to go deeply into it. There may be an answer, or there may be no answer, or something in between. So go learn for yourself. And also ask yourself, why am I asking this question? What is being assumed by me that allows for this question to feel relevant? Why is it relevant to me? And what have I assumed in order to ask it? What things have I automatically, perhaps unconsciously or subconsciously believed to ask that question? And what are the sources of those beliefs that make you ask that question? That's much more important than finding a literal answer.
Yes, thank you. We'll introspect.
And even further, your comment and question convey that there is fear about the possibility that fear will be there when you die, which means the question is born in fear. A fear that has nothing at all to do with death, but wondering about death. Wondering about death. There is a fear that you will be in fear when you die, and you are in fear now that that might be the case, that you will be frightened in fear at the time of death. So isn't it interesting that the question is coming about from present-day fear? It's the fear that you're holding now. It takes the form of, will this happen in the future? I am afraid that this will happen in the future, so I'm going to ask you, David, please clarify it so I can get rid of this fear. But if you look into the fear that you're feeling, it may not have anything to do with what's ahead. It may be that you are afraid now. You're afraid in this moment. What are you afraid of? What prompts you to ask the question? Then there is also the question of success and failure in living, and that somehow death is some kind of final test, that you have either succeeded or failed, and you're frightened that if fear is present at the moment of death, in some way I have failed because I have been told or I have read, or I myself have conjured up the thought that if there is fear at the time of death, I am a failure, that sadhana has been a failure. Can you look into it like this? Do you know how to explore your thought, your questions, in terms of the feelings that give rise to those questions? The feelings, the impulses behind the asking of the question. What is felt? What is assumed? What is presumed to be known? As you ask the question, those things that give rise to the content of that question, can you look at yourself in such a way that you're interested to find out in that way? Not get the answer to a question as though, what is the sum of 2 plus 2 equals what? That question. What is the sum of 2 plus 2? Then you get the answer, and then the inquiry is all over. That's what's so great about mathematics. It gives definitive answers, and therefore it can pacify naive and superficial minds. The answers born of mathematics, which pervade all of the answers we are given in today's mathematical-based economic culture, all based on principles of mathematics, theories based in mathematics. They offer deceptive, clever, conclusive answers to questions that don't matter. Questions which do not matter in the real sense of how things should matter. So here we are, immersed in a world where science, which is based on mathematics, there is no science without mathematics, and mathematics specifically in the way it has been developed in the last few hundred years, that kind of mathematics. All assuming reality is quantifiable, that the knowledge of reality is ultimately a big equation that can be figured out, as is done in the naive academic tradition of physics. Physics which destroys the human mind, teaches it to ask the wrong questions, then leads it in the direction toward mathematics to answer those questions. But math is only a tool. It's only a tool. Used by whom? The one who uses the tool. The tool is created by the one who uses it. The user of the tool, the maker of the tool, is far superior to the tool. That's why, again, we have a problem with the formation of digital intelligence, claiming that computers are smarter than the human being. How can that be? They were created from the human being. All they do is compute mathematical quantities quickly. The faster you go in thinking, the more sloppy, the more dangerous your thinking becomes. In fact, thinking itself can be erased through the swiftness of the use of thought. So how can the computer possibly be called an intelligent device in and of itself, and even worse, something more intelligent than the human who created it? So we are caught today in the grips of the results of science, the scientific method, and the inventions and productions of science, which have abducted all forms of education, have ruined education, killing the humanities, The humanities are named the humanities for a reason, because they have to do with the human. But science is bringing us to the robot. Dumb, stupid science has brought us to the point where we believe that our salvation is in digital consciousness, robotic consciousness, and the fusion of those things toward the human being, creating a hybridic, super stupid human robot. People are taking this seriously. In fact, one could argue that many of the developments in the world today are being run by the idiots who are enslaved to mathematical thinking, the notion of robotics, and the continued expansion of digitalism, all against the humanities, all trying to kill out the notion that the human being is an organic happening, like a butterfly in nature, and is to be understood most deeply in that way, as an organic arising of intelligence produced by energies and conditions in a biosphere. That human being will be a very different human being than the one pursued by mathematics, physics, robotics, and so on. So when we look at the human being today, it is a disgraced, enslaved, and we're talking here about the people who run those areas of human life. We're talking about dangerously undereducated, and even in certain cases overeducated, if you call what they have received education. That is, they have lost all the biosensitivity of what it means to think and feel inside of skin. The exhilaration of living inside of breathing skin, opening into sensations that are bodily in nature, which process and understand information in a completely different way than any robot ever would. So the more you suppress that bio-informed human being, the more dangerous and stupid the human organism becomes, reckless, succumbing to profit motives, succumbing to war, which is waged in the name of profit, acquiring profit, stealing resources which are stolen and then sold, bought and sold. So when you look at life this way, and you look at the miseducation of the human being, then you can clearly see how it is that we are where we are today. The inherent bliss of the self happens inside of a bio-energized human being who has entered into the deepest levels of consciousness within their own bodily form and can access levels of energy and light that are unavailable to those functioning in a merely exterior reality. A truly enlightened, awakened human being is ecstatic inside of this biosphere where other animals are constantly in communion with the human animal, and that synergy, that biospheric synergy of living organisms among themselves already displays the highest form of intelligence. That is, intelligence is never made. It's never accrued. Intelligence is the primordial condition of life. Beyond this point, there's no use criticizing academia or the way in which science has ruined the world with its poisons, its poisonous crops, its poisonous rockets that the physicists relish like little boys playing with toys. Little boys fascinated with the smoke that comes out of the back of a rocket that is destroying its own stratosphere. They can only be amused, bemused, because they're so bored with themselves, with what's going on inside their own body minds, that they have to recreate objective reality. That's what they call it. An objective reality outside themselves with which to become mesmerized, like little children mesmerized before fireworks displays. Growing up in the human realm is not easy. It requires access into meditation, mystical, supra-mystical levels of understanding, exposing oneself to profound levels of enjoyment, natural, love-based enjoyment within oneself, within this world. And in that ecstatic participation, you have the birth of true intelligence. Real intelligence, which comes about from what the Vedic tradition refers to as Sat Chit Ananda, the inherent quality of the universe itself. Absolute consciousness bliss. That is the substratum, that is the substance, that is the actuality of life and the universe. When a human being wakes up to that, he or she, or some combination of he and she, becomes illumined in that, awakened in that, sees out of that, and devotes himself or herself to that, to relishing that, sharing that, talking about that, viscerally feeling that with others and the world. If we don't wake up to this, there will be immense destruction coming. Immense destruction is arriving, has arrived, and will continue to arrive at our doorsteps until we either crack through fear, understand its sources, and find a new way to be in this world, or we allow fear and our reactions to fear to destroy ourselves and this beautiful world. We're out of time. Namaste.